I just really want to encourage pastors to prioritize this. I'm confident God will be pleased, and I'm confident the church will be strengthened. You are discipling the whole family in doing that. It's hard to imagine a biblical, valid reason why we wouldn't want to do that.
Welcome to the Grace Marriage Podcast. I'm Brad Rhoads.
And I'm Marilyn Rhoads. We're here to help you build a marriage that's stronger, more connected, and full of grace.
I'm Rick Dayton, joining Brad and Marilyn as we bring you weekly conversations designed to inspire and equip you to live intentionally in your marriage.
We'll share practical tips, powerful stories, and strategies to help you and your spouse grow closer and thrive together.
So whether you're just starting out or have been married for years, there's always room to grow. Let's do this together. This is the Grace Marriage Podcast.
Welcome to this episode of the Grace Marriage Podcast. I'm here with a good friend, here with my pastor, here with the church that actually was the founding church at Grace Marriage. Jamus Edwards, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, honored to be here. Thanks for having me.
Why don't you start by just introducing yourself to our audience, kind of about your family, kind of what your profession is.
Yeah, so I'm Jamus, and Annie and I have been married for just over 20 years now. And we have 3 kids, all in high school, and 2 of them going off to college in the fall. So we're in the kind of pre-grieving process there, moving towards that empty nest. But I've been in ministry for 24 years. I've been in pastoral ministry for about 22 years. Been at our church here in Owensboro, Pleasant Valley Community Church for in our 19th year now. And originally from small town, Western Kentucky, Cadiz, Kentucky. And then in addition to my primary calling as a pastor, I do some teaching at a couple of local colleges and universities in the area and really enjoy that. And I love all things UK sports and Cherry Coke and country music.
That's right. We had the privilege of going to Eric Church concert together.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
So back in 2012, I remember this, I came to you and wanted to launch like an ongoing marriage investment platform at Pleasant Valley. And you kind of said, you've got my support. Why were you so behind from the beginning trying to create an ongoing marriage ministry at Pleasant Valley?
Yeah, well, when that happened, I remember that conversation vividly in 2012. Annie and I had been married for 7 years, and we'd been in ministry that whole time. And I had gotten off to a bad start in terms of priorities. Early on in my several years of ministry, it was church one. It was ministry number one, and then it was Jesus and my wife when I had time. And so I subconsciously was sacrificing my marriage on the altar of ministry. And so when you approached me with that concept, for me, it was not so much our church needs this, though it did. It was I need this, and Annie needs this. And so it was a no-brainer for me, man. I had not been leading our church well and stewarding my own marriage. And as a result of that, I've been setting a poor example, but was happy to correct that wrong and repent and beginning to hopefully lead by example and prioritizing my marriage over ministry. And also, leading out in that for the church. And it was an absolute game changer for us as a couple. So Annie and I have been with you all in marriage coaching now since 2012. So going into our, 14th year. And it was the single greatest decision we ever made.
Well, and it was, so at the time, I'd just been ordained lay pastor of marriage at our church. And I saw that our church did premarital counseling and our church did crisis counseling. But our church didn't really have anything for marriage. And I thought, well, our marriage ministry, the only thing we're missing is the marriage itself, as one pastor said. And so actually, neither you nor I knew this, but when we launched it at Pleasant Valley, by 2015, I realized that our church wasn't alone, that most churches did premarital and crisis, either had nothing for marriage, or if they had something for marriage, it was just like one random study or conference once a year, which didn't have growth. So, I mean, you didn't know when you said yes to that in 2012, it actually set me on a different career path in 2015.
Yeah. Well, the Lord had a sovereign plan. Little did we know in 2012 that God was up to something much bigger than just our local church here in Western Kentucky. But God was going to start a movement where He's going to use Grace Marriage and other means to provide a practical, helpful, biblical, grace-saturated approach to marriage ministry.
And right now, you look at most churches, they'll have a full-time youth guy, full-time children's guy, a good-sized children's budget, a good-sized youth budget, but then typically no marriage budget and typically nobody in the marriage space. What are your thoughts on why is it that family ministry historically has been so child youth dominant and so marriage absent?
Man, that's a great question. I don't know entirely. I can say at least for us for a while at our church, and I'm not imposing this on every pastor everywhere. There are some pastors that have incredible marriages. Some of the best marriages I know are men who are pastors for sure. But I can at least say for Annie and I early in our marriage, because we weren't prioritizing our relationship, I would have felt probably somewhat hypocritical to lead our church to be super focused on marriage when I wasn't doing it myself. So yeah, that may have even been subconscious. But that could be part of it, that pastors may be reticent to focus heavily on the importance of marriage in the local church if he has a bit of insecurity about his own. Again, I'm not imposing that on all. I think in some cases that could be. I just think there's so much cultural pressure. You got to have kids and youth stuff. Like you build the buildings for the kids and the youth, right? And there's just so much pressure that families expect that. And somehow along the way, we've forgotten about kids and youth are great, but if mom and dad aren't doing well, then what we're doing on Wednesday nights for an hour and a half is all for nothing.
It's almost like we've accommodated to a child youth-centered culture.
Yeah.
It's like, churches complain, it's child-centered, it's youth-centered. People miss church for sporting events on weekends. They just go to the lake with their kids. They do, but then I don't know, it almost encourages that when it's children and youth that we don't make marriage as primary. Now, at Pleasant Valley, by God's kindness, I feel like our marriage ministry is as prominent as our children and youth. And we have 105 couples doing Grace Marriage. We have a crisis intensive. We have a young marrieds group. We have a premarital group. How do you think it's positively impacted our church in our family ministry having a vibrant marriage ministry alongside our other ministries?
Well, it's just holistic discipleship. So we disciple the whole person, and we disciple every relationship that we have as followers of Jesus. And so I just think we see healthier families. I think we're getting the byproduct of kids that are more inclined towards Jesus and families that are more inclined towards Jesus when mom and dad are. And we're getting that through marriage ministry. And so I think if you start with a marriage and you focus there, you inevitably get the other things you want. And then kids programs and youth ministries are able to be supplemental and come alongside that. Those are great resources. But I just think we see overall happier families. If the marriage isn't happy, then the kids probably aren't. And by happy, I don't mean perfect. Marriages suffer and we all struggle, and Annie and I have all kinds of things we wrestle through to this day. But I mean, a better word than happy is probably healthy. Healthy marriages, they're intentional and proactive and filled with grace and kindness and love for one another. And that's the example we're leaving to our kids.
Yeah, and the vision we have at Grace Marriage is that family ministry at the church would always include marriage ministry. That, we call it dysfunctional family ministry when it has children and youth, but no marriage. So what would you tell a pastor or church leader out there right now that has a youth ministry and children's ministry, a youth guy, children's guy, but really doesn't have any strategy in the marriage space? What would you tell that pastor?
Well, I would just say, do it. I think you stand up in front of the church and I think we say, hey, I'm going to own this. And this is something that I've had to do. I'm going to own this as a leader in our church. This is an area where we have not done well, and we see that, and we are repenting of that, if that's an appropriate word. And we're going to start now. And, you know, there's the one relationship, humanly speaking, where God says it is the marriage that represents fellowship between Christ and the church. And so to do well with marriage and to focus on marriage ministry, we are in doing so preaching the gospel faithfully. And so I think one of the greatest things a pastor can do to lead his church in terms of focusing on marriage ministry is to be a gospel-centered church. But by definition, when we're a gospel-centered church, where church is going to focus on marriage.
Now, a lot of lead pastors might think, I get it, I agree, but I'm so busy. I mean, I've got weddings, I've got funerals, I've got counseling, I'm preaching. How much time during the week does the marriage ministry take off your schedule?
Oh, man. Yeah. I mean, I rarely am doing premarital counseling now, because we have lay people in our church that are doing premarital counseling for all the people that I marry. I'm doing much less crisis counseling now, because so many couples in our church are in regular quarterly marriage coaching. That's a proactive maintenance approach. Of course, we still have crisis cases. You always will, but much less. So the fact is, I am less busy now with marriages than I have been, and that's because we do have a marriage ministry.
And do you have to, because a pastor might be thinking, I don't have time to launch a marriage ministry.
Yeah.
Is other people doing that, or do you do that yourself as it relates to all the details of the marriage ministry?
Oh man, the details, it's led by our people, by lay people. Now the pastor, I think in particular, the higher you are in leadership, you need to have staff buy-in, you need to have pastoral buy-in, and the pastor needs to be able to communicate vision, I would argue, from the pulpit, not just something in the bulletin or the program, but so you can give the vision for that. But in terms of integrating that ministry, I'm not involved in the details at all. My involvement looks like my wife and I are in a marriage coaching group that is led by you and Marilyn. So we're not even leading a group. We have in the past, and I'd be happy to, but I'm receiving that ministry in many ways more than I'm even giving it.
So you're in a group. Tell our listener what being in a group means. What do you and Annie do in your group? How is it helpful? How do the groups work?
Yeah, so once a quarter, we come together with 6 to 8 other couples in our church, and for about a half a day, on our case, we do it on a Friday. A lot of our groups meet on Saturdays, and it's just a half a day to intentionally invest in our marriage. We all get so busy, and so it's a discipline. It's an intentional act to guarantee, if nothing else, we got a half a day once a quarter where we're going to do face-to-face and talk through the issues in our marriage. So it feels somewhat like a small group, and then you're in the room with other couples, and there is some group discussion. It's a low-pressure environment. Not everybody has to share, but it's also intentional to give each spouse one-on-one time. We'll often break up and go to different parts of the building where we're talk through a particular issue. And so there's workbooks, so we're taking notes, we're having hard conversations, but there's also the benefit of you see other couples, what they're doing well, and so we're learning from other couples. Man, that's a great date night idea, or man, we should have thought of that. But you're also seeing other couples struggle. And Annie and I joke, like one of our favorite things about marriage coaching is we realize that we're not the only ones that have challenges. And so there is a sweet comfort to know that marriage is hard for everybody, and we're all in it together, and we all need God's grace, and we're not alone. And so we always leave encouraged. There are times when we leave very convicted. We always leave with takeaways. Man, we got to work on this. But we leave encouraged to know that God is faithful, and to see, hey, this couple over here, man, last quarter, they were barely holding on, and now they're doing much better. God is at work. And so you just see so much fruit. And in particular, if you're with the same group over a number of years, and a number of us have been together, you see God's faithfulness over years and years. And it reminds you, man, if God is faithful to them, He's going to be faithful to us too.
Yeah, I remember Annie saying the thing she liked most, she said, I felt like Jamus and our marriage was uniquely hard.
Yeah.
And she says, I didn't know why. Then when I got in our group, I realized it wasn't uniquely hard.
Yeah.
We were uniquely normal.
Yeah.
And we had a good, special relationship that had challenges, and so did all these other couples in the group.
Yeah.
And so, we've been in that group together since 2012. Some of our OGs are still in that group. And they've been together 12, 13 years. And I mean, for Marilyn and I, it's like life is so hard.
Yeah.
I think kids' problems, Marilyn's health issues, and so many things. And just to stop.
Yeah.
and say, okay, let's do marriage well in the midst of whatever it is. And remember, we had a couple of years that I think Miracle had every single session. Remember that? Remember that?
Yeah.
But we have other people in our group now that are going through crazy hard challenges.
Yeah.
But this is keeping the kind of the marriage coaching helps them not let the life circumstances pull you apart, but pull you together to go through the life circumstances together.
That's right. Man, just the intentionality and the discipline. And it's such a great example. You know, our kids will ask Friday mornings, they're getting ready for school, hey, what are you doing today, Mom and Dad? Because Fridays are my day off typically. Well, we're going to marriage coaching. And I love being able to say that to our kids. Because hopefully we're leaving them an example that Mom and Dad invest in their marriage. So since 2012, when they were little, that's all they've known. This is what Mom and Dad do. What'd you do at marriage coach today? What'd you talk about? What kind of snacks did you have? And so not only are we working on our marriage, but we're investing in our kids and leaving them a legacy that we hope I hope our kids can't imagine a life where they're not working on their marriage too.
We have one couple that said every quarter they tell their kids we're going to Grace Marriage, and about a year and a half in, their kid goes, how many times is Grace going to get married? See, they're watching Grace get married every.
Well, and I mean, the beauty of Grace Marriage, it is exactly what it sounds like. Marriage is hard. We're sinners. As a friend wrote a book, Marriage is when two sinners say I do. And so the vulnerability we're able to have in marriage coaching to be broken, to confess sin. I don't mean like confessing our deepest, darkest sins to the whole group necessarily, but it's a safe place to not be okay because the curriculum is gospel-centered. And Jesus is present and the grace of God is communicated. And so it's not come into marriage coaching and get beat up for how terrible we are, though it's appropriate to feel convicted, but it's a very grace-flowing environment where couples feel free to say, hey, we've been struggling, or we're struggling in this department. We had a huge fight last week. We need grace, and it's a real freedom that comes with the gospel-centered approach. So the message isn't just go do better, but the message is we all need grace, we all need forgiveness, and it's hopeful.
Sin will have no dominion over you because you're under grace, not law. It's not sin will have no dominion over you because you're going to go do better this quarter. It's going to sin will have no dominion because you can rest in the beautiful grace of Jesus Christ. And so some pastors have said, well, we've got prayer ministry, we've got youth ministry, we've got children's ministry, we've got senior citizens ministry, we've got veterans ministry. I really can't promote marriage ministry from the pulpit. How would you respond to that when a pastor says that?
Well, I think I would just ask the question, why? Why can't we promote it from the pulpit? Isn't it worth getting some pushback for the sake of the gospel and for the good of the marriages in our church? And I say this kindly and humbly, I hope, but I think there's something deeper going on there probably if we're unwilling to talk about the most important relationship in the church outside of us and Christ. If we're not willing to talk about that and to encourage investment in that, there may be something else going on. I don't know what it would be, but there may be a fear of man thing going on. There may be, well, is this going to grow the church or is this going to pay the bills? But I just really want to encourage pastors to prioritize this. And I'm confident God will be pleased, and I'm confident the church will be strengthened. And man, if you have an opportunity to disciple the marriages in your church, you are discipling the whole family in doing that. And it's hard to imagine a biblical valid reason why we wouldn't want to do that. Not that can't look different in every church. So you got to know your context, of course, but on some level, I think churches, to be faithful, have to do that well.
In business, when I was in the law practice, and I said, find the thing that if it doesn't work, nothing else matters. And I had a pastor in Atlanta, he told me, he goes, oh my goodness, if the marriages in our church don't work, nothing in our church works. He said, our youth don't work, our children don't work, our finances don't work. And even in 1 Peter 3, even our very prayers are hindered. So he's like, marriage is the thing that has to go well for everything else in our church ecosystem to go well. Not to mention husband, wife, Christ, the church, wedding supper of the Lamb, all the analogies of marriage, Israel and God. And so, I mean, the theological richness of marriage alone, but also it's pragmatic. So to me, it just doesn't make sense to not make the primary relationship.
Yeah.
So, but Jamus, thank you so much. I mean, Grace Marriage wouldn't exist but for you in Pleasant Valley, and that you've given us the freedom of kind of learning through Pleasant Valley. And by God's kindness, we're now in over 280 churches. And you and I had no clue of that when I started going to Pleasant. And I was a civil litigation attorney, and now, I would just ask both you and the listeners to pray that the Lord would start a movement such that all churches disciple marriages, such that marriage is increasing and not decreasing, such that when people think of marriage, they think of beautiful adjectives, not ones that kind of make fun of it because of the way they watch people be married. So I think some amazing things are happening and will happen, but just wanted to thank you. And next episode, we're going to kind of get into how to steward your marriage well while you're in ministry, and how you avoid church being number one, marriage being number two. So thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on the Grace Marriage Podcast. We really hope you're feeling inspired to take intentional steps to grow in your marriage.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with a friend. Your support helps us spread the message of grace and reach even more couples.
And if you have a moment, please leave us a review. Your feedback means a lot to us and helps others discover the podcast.
To learn more about how you can grow in your marriage, visit us at gracemarriage.com. Keep building stronger, grace-filled marriages.
We'll see you next week on the Grace Marriage Podcast. Until then, keep growing in grace.